Hi, this is Sierra and welcome to C Reads. I feel like I have to reintroduce myself as I have been gone for quite a bit and I've been humming and hawing whether I even should come back, which I'm here now, so hopefully I edit this video. Today's video is going to be my recent slash not so recent reads. I've read 10 books since I last posted a recently read video and I'm excited to share them with you guys. So let's get started. The first book I finished since my last video was Secrets for the Mad by Dodie, Obsessions, Confessions, and Life Lessons. This is her memoir. If you don't know who Dodie is, she's a musician and she's also on YouTube. Got this as an e-arc on NetGalley back in like 2017 and I didn't end up getting to finish it before the e-arc expired. I finished it now with my own copy and it was really, really good. Secrets for the Mad has also lyrics from Dodie's songs and also heartbreaking stories. There's also tons and tons of her illustrations like this. And I thought it was very great, interesting to know more about Dodie and who she is as a person alongside her music. While I was reading the lyrics to the songs, I ended up listening to them, which I totally recommend for kind of immersing yourself in the feelings of this book. I read it pretty much in one sitting. It was lovely, and this is mostly meant for teens and young adults since it has some like life experience slash advice stuff in it. Definitely there's trigger warnings for emotional abuse, mental illness, including depression, suicidal ideation, addiction, eating disorders, derealization, and depersonalization. And I do hope you get a physical copy of this because from what I remember reading the e-copy, it didn't really fit well with the illustrations. It wasn't as impactful, which is probably not the right word, but it's the word I'm thinking of right now. But it has color and the ebook is black and white, so you'll miss all the beautiful colors of the pictures and illustrations. And this was amazing. I love Dodie, I love her music. I gave this 5 stars. The next book I finished is The Art of Starving by Sam J. Miller. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. This is a young adult novel about a young teenager, a boy who has an eating disorder. I listened to a good portion of this book on audio and I also picked up the physical copy. I had heard mixed things in the past about this book, but I wanted to try it for myself because I don't think I've ever read anything about a boy with an eating disorder, so I wanted to get that certain perspective. My initial fears going into this novel was the fact that the whole premise was he has an eating disorder and whenever he doesn't eat, he develops superhuman abilities, which if it was just that plot and he didn't actually have an eating disorder, he would just not eat and gain superpowers, that would be kind of not really what I would want to pick up or experience. This was not the case. It was all in his head. It's a kind of a product of the eating disorder that he feels like he gets more powerful. It made me emotional and I sobbed while reading this, and the fact that it made me cry makes it pretty much a 5-star book in my eyes. So this story is not only about a boy with an eating disorder, it's about a gay boy with an eating disorder. Matt in the book is gay and he has fallen for another person in this book, who I won't spoil who it is, but he does have a little bit of a relationship. Definitely trigger warnings in this book for self-harm, eating disorders, disordered eating, disordered thinking, addiction to alcohol, suicidal ideation, and thoughts and plans of suicide, and also bullying and harassment. This story was so moving to me, and although there isn't like a significant plot structure, it's just kind of over the course of a year in this boy's life following his eating disorder. He also is trying to find his older sister who has gone missing, run away. We don't really know at the start of the novel. He is convinced that she has not only run away, that something bad has happened to her. Matt, the main character of the novel, for me at least, was frustrating and raw in the best kind of ways. He showed real realism and growth throughout the novel, whether sinking deeper into his mental illness or growing out of it and recovering, and it does kind of show the recovering aspects. His relationship to his mother and sister grew very strong. His mother kind of shifts from this repulsive figure to his protector, who's someone who needs to be protected. His relationship with his mother really grows stronger, and I thought it was really brilliant. Miller also shines a light on something in YA that's not really talked about or written about, and frankly, it's teenage masturbation. I've never read a YA novel where masturbation was talked about. Nothing really negative was said about it, except for the character's own shame about it. Bullying is touched on in this novel, and the vulgarity of it, and it affects on someone as vulnerable during this time as Matt is. As we learn more and more through Matt's eyes of his world, he often becomes an unreliable narrator, so it shifts our focus, and I'm really glad I picked this book up. I definitely recommend this book if you are in a good place to read it. It's powerful and it's wonderful, and I really love it. The next book that I'm talking about is Rest and Be Thankful by Emma Glass. This is kind of a short book. It was only like 200 some odd pages. I received this as an e-arc on NetGalley. The cover is gorgeous. That's sort of hints to why I decided to read it, but I ended up giving this 3 stars. I honestly thought it was okay. I really liked the day-to-day descriptions of her nursing job. She was a pediatric nurse. I forgot her name. It's been so long since I read it. It was sort of like a person slowly going mad book. And I found that everything became really muddled and unfocused other than the descriptions of her being a nurse. I found it was, if it was shortened a bit or cleaned up a bit, it would make it a better short story, or lengthened maybe even as a novel. I did make a full review of this book on Goodreads, so if you would like to read that, I will put a link in the description box down below. So yeah, it was okay. Not the greatest book, and definitely me forgetting aspects of it doesn't help me in me recommending it. The next book that I finished is Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Seawater. This is the first book in the Dreamer trilogy, and it follows Ronan, I forget his last name, Ronan something, Ronan Lynch, and I got my hands on this soon after I finished all of the Raven Cycle books, and I gave those all 5 stars, but I ended up giving this 4 stars. Read part of this on audio, and then I read a bit on physical too, and it was just kind of like a weird, it got very weird. Let's just say that. There was just something about it that didn't quite measure up to what the Raven Cycle was, but I really enjoyed learning more about Ronan and following him after the events of the Raven Cycle. I definitely think you have to read the Raven Cycle before you read Call Down the Hawk, because there is some mentions of things that happened in the Raven Cycle. If you don't want to be spoiled for the Raven Cycle, I would pick this up afterwards. New interesting characters were introduced, which I found very cool, and some of more interesting depths into the weird world that is this world that Maggie Seawater created. The next book that I'm going to be talking about is The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. This is a thriller novel that my coworker recommended to me. This basically tells the story of Jane and Emma, who are part of alternating timelines, who are moving into this really minimalist flat in England, and they move in at different times, and it tells the story of them as they live there and how their stories intersect and parallel. It gave me really creepy vibes towards the beginning. February, I had a reading vlog and I read a bit of this novel and I talked a lot more about it and my feelings during the beginning part. Those are probably the only good experiences I had with The Girl Before. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was really creepy during the beginning and it really kind of had that oomph, like twist after twist. But suddenly when you have twist after twist and you have these like kind of parallel stories, they're gonna deviate from one another. I thought the ending was okay. I didn't know where the story was gonna go and it seems like I just would have rather not know where the story was gonna go. I mean, not that the author didn't know how to end this story, it's just that it didn't end in a satisfactory way, I should say. I enjoyed most of my reading experience of this, but I'm definitely probably going to give this book away and take it out of my collection. I don't feel like reading it again. The next book that I read and finished was Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. Started to read this and started to annotate it and underline and all that stuff. Let me find something where I annotated. Yes! Aha! Yeah, I gave this 3 stars. It was Twilight. Like, I hadn't read it since middle school, like grade 7 when I first read this book, and I ended up watching the movie after I finished reading this, and the movie was Twilight. Like, I don't know how to express it other than saying it's Twilight. Like, it's not the greatest love story of all time. Like, so many things are better than Twilight, but it gave me the nostalgia that I needed. I think we all used to be that embarrassing child, if you've read this series. But I read it and it was fun. Like, it was so fun to read it again, and that's all I took out of it. It was fun to read again. And also, I do recognize the fact that the movies and the book kind of really don't represent Native Americans well. But I am excited for Midnight Sun, ashamedly. I'm gonna get Midnight Sun when it comes out. 2 things I sort of finished around the same time were the first 2 volumes of My Hero Academia. I watched the anime, and I'm fully caught up to the anime, but I decided I needed more, so I read the manga. First 2 volumes of the manga. Amazing. Both 5 stars. Glorious. Just look at my Deku. He's a baby. Look at this baby. I just love all my children and I want them to be happy and heroes and everything. So, you know the next book I finished. Frig. I'm reading the whole series. And that is New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. I did annotate some of it, but I ended up giving up like part of the way through just so I could power through and finish it. It's okay. 3 stars. I just did this out of order because the book that fell. Oh well. It was fun learning about vampires. The vampire lore stuff is really cool. The book I actually finished before New Moon was The Memory Place by Yoko Agawa. This is a novel that's 1984 inspired. Basically, it takes place on an island where there's this thing called the Memory Place, and we don't know how or why, but they're taking away people's memories of things like ribbons, calendars, perfume, and other things start disappearing, and the main person in this novel is a novelist, and she is hiding someone who actually remembers everything that everybody else has forgotten. I gave this 4 stars. It's very dreamlike, and it has part of the novelist's manuscript. We never actually know her name, which I find pretty cool, but like, I don't know her name, so I don't know how to refer to her. She writes a novel and bits of it appear in the book, and it kind of parallels what is occurring slightly in her world in the novel, and it's very eerie and creepy, the things that happen, and the vibe is just really great. I don't know. It's less of a resistance type dystopian, living through a dystopia. I definitely would recommend it. It's definitely not as intense as some other dystopians, but it can turn up the creep factor, if you know what I mean. The last book that I finished in this recent reads chunk is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. This is a book about a woman who decides she's gonna hibernate and sleep for a year, so she goes to this wacky psychiatrist who prescribes her all these medications to help her sleep. Yeah, and it's about her, and it's kind of also about her best friend, Riva, who is her friend throughout all of this. And it was very interesting. I just gave it 3 stars. It kind of became, as her year went on, it was sort of depressing, and it kind of made me depressed, which made me feel depressed about reading it. But I found it really interesting. It's set in the early 2000s, more of a slice of life kind of thing than any sort of plot or growth of characters or anything like that. But it was definitely an interesting read, and something I picked up because of Ariel Bissett. I think she liked it a lot more than I did. But it was alright. My camera battery's dying, so thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Bye! These are all the books I've finished. Gotta flip them around.